KSA Radio, where you are family. My name is Ethan, and I'm chatting to Hugo van Sale. Hugo, can you quickly introduce yourself?
I'm Hugo van Sale. I'm a master tax practitioner and a chartered accountant living in Cape Town, looking after South African expats for many, many years, since 1993. And on Twitter, people will know me as @Wegganger, meaning away African.
Awesome. You have gone into a joint venture with CurrencyAssist and Taxforum to assist expats regarding the new tax 2020 rules. Could you please tell us what that exactly means?
So for many years, since 2001, our tax law said if you're a South African tax resident and you're working outside of South Africa and you were out of the country for 183 days, any 12 months, and you spent at least 60 days of that 183 days outside South Africa, they would not tax your remuneration, your salary income. So you still pay tax on your rental income and your interest income, but the remuneration you earned outside South Africa was not taxed. As of 1 March 2020, so that is the February 21 tax year, but it starts in March 2020, therefore we call it tax 2020. They have now capped that exemption, and only the first 1 million rand of your foreign remuneration will be tax exempt in South Africa. Everything in excess of 1 million rand will now be taxed. But remuneration in our definition for the foreign income is far wider than what we know for pay-as-you-earn purposes. It will include share incentive schemes, bonuses, and also commission, but it excludes any consultancy fee. So consultancy fee has always been taxed in South Africa, but remuneration has been exempt, including your housing benefit and your pension contributions, which, as you know, in South Africa is now a taxable benefit. So the Taxforum Currency Assist joint venture is Taxforum is my company, and Currency Assist is a company that transfers foreign currency in and out of South Africa. And we entered into a joint venture to assist those South Africans living outside South Africa to send money into South Africa to inter alia pay SARS, because if they're working for a foreign employer, there is no tax deduction at source. So they will have to pay provisional tax every year in August and in February. But we also have clients that are just submitting every month part of their salary back to South Africa to pay for their bonds and life insurance and everything else. So we have two ends to it. We do money into South Africa and we do money out of South Africa. Because sometimes you have family members sending you money up to 1 million rand to your family in Dubai. Just makes you don't have a donations tax problem, but the Reserve Bank said you're welcome to transfer the money.
Let's talk a bit about your company and how you got into the world of tax.
So Taxforum looks after all these expats. You have to worry about paying the tax on the amount in excess of 1 million rand. There's a few steps we have to do, and the first step is to decide, are you indeed tax resident in South Africa? Now, just to quickly step back and say, in South African law, we have three types of residence. The first one is the Home Affairs one. You have a South African passport, and that probably puts you within the South African tax net. The next one is the tax law definition of a resident. And you are either a resident or not a resident, and it's not really your choice. It's a consequence of you moving to a specific country. And we have some laws in South Africa dictating it, but our local law has an override in the Global Tax Treaty. Now, the type of residency is the Reserve Bank one. So that's an elective process. You can elect to tell the Reserve Bank, I no longer want to be a resident in South Africa for banking purposes. So at the moment in the social media, there's this expectation that if you file for financial immigration, you get rid of this new law. So then you don't have to pay tax on the excess over 1 million rand. It's probably one of the solutions, but it's the most expensive one. Most people, and that's where I say the first step we have to do is to determine if you're indeed tax resident. Because if you're not tax resident in South Africa, you really do not have to worry about that capped exemption, because you're not liable for tax in South Africa on any of your income in the world, except if it's what we call situs assets, local South African assets, for example, rental on a South African property, or if it's interest on a South African bank account. And then in most cases, South African persons living abroad as non-residents will not pay tax in South African interest, because the interest you earn from a bank is exempted from the withholding tax. So it's a very, very complex question and answers, and it's based on individual case. And that's where Taxforum specialize. We answer the questions on an individual basis, and we're quite happy to issue you with what we call a Section 223 of the Tax Administration Act opinion to say you are tax exempt because you are living in a foreign country as a tax resident of that foreign country. But remember earlier I said there's tax treaties we have to look at. So the tax treaties all differ and it's very complex. I'm just going to quickly compare two specific treaties because there's many South Africans in those countries. If you are in Australia, or you have a family member in Australia, and they're on a work permit, a so-called 457 permit, you remain tax resident in South Africa, and you have to pay tax on your foreign earnings. You obviously get a tax deduction or credit for what you pay to the Australian ATO. Their SARS is called ATO. If you compare that to the UK, if you're in the UK on a work permit and you've been in the UK for more than 183 days, you are tax resident in the UK, and then you tax immigrate or tax migrate away from South Africa, then you are not liable for tax on the excess over 1 million because you are no longer a tax resident. So it sounds easy for UK residents. They just fill in a tax form and say, I have tax immigrate, but there's a bit of a sting in the tail. Our tax law since 2001 has a specific provision that states if you leave the South African tax residency basis of taxation, so you still have a South African tax number, but you no longer pay tax on the worldwide income, then SARS wants capital gains tax on all your worldwide assets as if you have sold it to yourself at market value. In practical terms, you have to value all your assets, calculate the capital gains tax on that, and pay that to SARS without you collecting any cent because you have not really sold. Luckily, there's one or two exemptions that helps. The most important exemption is all your pension fund and life insurance funds are excluded from that tax. And so is also immovable property, title deed properties in South Africa, because those you pay the capital gains tax the day you leave, the day you sell the property, not the day that you leave South Africa. So Ethan, it's very complex, as you can see. Then on the currency assist side, obviously when people leave, they still have commitments back in South Africa. The property is probably only sold after they left and they want that money out of South Africa. We can help. We can get you the tax clearance because remember, current rules, every South African can send R1 million out without tax clearance as long as you have a tax number. But if you want to send out more, you can send another 10 million, provided you have a tax clearance, that you're a good standing taxpayer. But there's a specific tax clearance. It's not the normal good standing. It is the FIA, Foreign Investment Allowance Tax Clearance. And we will help any taxpayer in getting that clearance done. And then obviously Currency Assist, their market share they get because they provide some of the lowest exchange rates available in the market. They go out to beat the big banks.
So then finally, if somebody would like to get a hold of you guys, if someone is an expat and they want to make use of your services, how do they get a hold of you?
So on Twitter, @Wegkaner, WEGKANER. On the web, my webpage is very easy, taxmigration.com without the E, taxmigration, or just Hugo van Zyl, one word.com. The email address is also very easy, wegkaner@iafrica.com. Very important, .com.
Awesome. Thank you so much. That was Hugo van Zyl talking to us about everything to do regarding tax law in and outside of South Africa. This is GS Radio, where your family keeps dreaming.